Yeah, so why politics? What's a nice guy like me doing in Parliament, you might ask? Well, most of my childhood I spent with my dad. He was a single father, and we lived together, two guys, big brother, little brother really was the type of relationship. We were incredibly close. We didn't have much money. He was a hotel broker, and for most of that time he was battling, like a lot of people are, a lot of single parents are certainly. And he did well after a while. In the latter part of his life, he kicked a few goals after a lot of effort. But he taught me a lot of amazing things. He was incredibly loyal, very, very strong, very disciplined. I was the main object of everything he wanted to achieve. He was very focused on doing what was right for me. And so when my mother left us, he always spoke about her in the most glowing terms. He talked her up, he told me how much she loved me. He did everything to make sure that we had the closest relationship. I didn't feel I missed out on anything because I had lots of love, a father who was very strong, very loyal and filled with love, who never left me in any doubt that he loved me more than anything on earth. I had that, and I also had a whole world of things to do, a whole outdoors world of things to do. He was also very resilient, and he gave me really the spirit of enterprise, I guess the liberal spirit of enterprise. He tried a lot of things. He didn't always succeed, but he always had a go. And when something didn't work out, an investment, a project, some idea he had, he'd dust himself off and he'd have another go. And finally, towards the end of his life, he actually did kick a few goals, which was terrific, except his life was cut short. He was killed in an aeroplane crash when he was 56. Well, I met Lucy in her father's chambers. Her father, Tom, is a barrister, and I was a young journalist on the Bulletin. When I was at university, I always had a job. I was either working as a labourer or working as an usher in a theatre, and then I got into journalism. So by the time I met Lucy, I was working as a journalist. And so I was writing an article about her father, who was Tom Hughes. He still is, and certainly was then, a very famous and charismatic barrister. Luce was working in his chambers, doing some part-time work. I chatted to her and sent her some flowers.
He was very energetic, also extremely warm and very funny.
Of course, the only problem was that the flowers arrived after she'd left. And so Tom comes home with the flowers, and according to Lucy, he said, that Malcolm Turnbull's a very charming young fellow. He really appreciated me giving the time, and he sent me some flowers.
The flowers came home, and I had to point out that I thought the flowers were maybe for me.
But that's how I met her, and that was, that was more than 30 years ago. Luce and I were living in a little cottage just outside of Oxford called Cumnor. And the church in the village, it's an Anglican church, and Lucy is a Catholic, I was a Presbyterian, so neither of us had any business there, but we decided we wanted to get married. So I went to see the vicar, and he was a very nice bloke called Neil Durand. And he said, quite reasonably, well, you're not part of my flock, why should I marry you?
Malcolm can be very persuasive at times.
I said, Vicar, you are a minister in the Church of England. And in England, the Church of England is an established church, it's part of the state. You are effectively a public servant. And your job is to ensure that there is no fornication going on in your parish. And I'm not here to make any admissions, but we are young people, unmarried and sorely tempted. Now, you can remove all of that risk by marrying us here in your church. And he roared with laughter, and needless to say, we got married. Well, Lucy and I have been very fortunate. We've had a very happy marriage, 2 great children. We're a very tight family unit.
When I see Malcolm as a dad, I see incredible love, affection, warmth, and making sure his kids become strong, resilient, positive people. And I can see that that's the same belief that Malcolm's father had in him.
But what makes us a family is love. It is that simple. That is what family is about. It's about love. I've always wanted to do my best. Whatever I do, I try to do as well as I can.
He's got an incredible work ethic. I mean, he's one of the hardest working people I've ever met.
And again, that's one of the things my dad was very fanatical about. Always do your best. The other thing that has been important to me and to Lucy in our business career is that we've sought to create businesses. We have, through our life, started so many different businesses in different areas, created a lot of jobs, taken risks.
One of the things he's been proudest of is starting businesses which employ lots of workers. I mean, he just loves growing businesses and giving people jobs and exciting work to do. And that, in the technology space, that's been an enormous source of satisfaction to him.
Always important to do your best, do the absolute maximum so that you've got no regrets.
He never gives up. He's got this incredible determination and focus.
Our job is to prepare for government. Right now, as the opposition, we have to hold this Labor government to account. They have been making one big mistake after another. They have made a difficult economic situation much worse. They have borrowed tens of billions of dollars from our children, not to build roads, not to build hospitals, not to build great water schemes and dams and pipelines across the nation. They've borrowed that money to send out cheques to everybody. They are ensuring that our children will have to pay higher taxes in the future to pay off their debt. Think about this. It took John Howard 10 years to pay off $96 billion of Labor debt. How long is it going to take us to pay off $200 billion of Labor debt that's being run up by Kevin Rudd? And that in barely a year. We'll stand up for what we know is right, for the principles we believe in, and we'll stand up for those liberal values and show the Australian people that there is a difference between a Labor government that believes its role is just to throw money around and run up debt without any concern about how it will be paid off, and a Liberal government that is focused on good economic management today and ensuring that our children are not crippled by debt in the years and the decades to come.
He's a strong voice and he always speaks out for what he believes in, and he's a very strong voice for Australia.
Authorised B.9 Liberal Party, Canberra.